I think we should start. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Women's Day special. It is such a special journey. I think all of us undertake right from being inspired by the first woman in our lives, our mothers, and then everyone else around us. So we at Times of India, we've done this wonderful initiative called The Future Is She. And me being tongue in cheek, I really thought that we should do She is the Future. But I said, let us not begin, with that kind of a supposition. So here we are with Future Is She. And I don't think we are just the future. I think we've been the past, we are the present, and we will always be the future too. Let me welcome on board Susan, Navya, Captain Zoya, and Mansi. Thank you very, very much for joining us. So rather than introduce all of you, what I'll do is when we just start, questioning, talking to each other, please begin by saying a little bit about yourselves and the work you do, and let's then carry on with it. So Susan, to begin with you as a UN, representative for women in India, please just tell us about your journey and what really is your charter, and what are the challenges or opportunities that women are facing today, and as an institution, what can the UN do to achieve the objectives that you're laying out for yourselves?
Thank you very much for the question or questions. So I'm Susan, and I'm the country representative here for UN Women in India. And UN Women is the UN entity that is concerned primarily with gender equality and women's empowerment. And we really do that supporting governments around the world, our member states, and also individual women, and at all different levels to improve their lives. So that's what we do in a nutshell. And here in India, we have a big focus on women's economic empowerment because there are really so many opportunities for women in India because of the massive economy that India has. So you were asking some of the challenges, I think, that women face in economic empowerment. And I think they are many, from some of the social norms that we are imbued with as we grow up, which sort of unconsciously dictate some of the areas that women are more likely to be working in, such as the caring professions, for example, teaching and nursing and that sort of thing. And plus, the issue of care work is a huge challenge for women who are often expected, again, the norms, globally, the norms often are that women are the primary carers in the household, and that can really constrain their ability to contribute to the economy as well. So these are really just a couple of areas of work where women and our ability is constrained. But I think that we all have a role in unlocking some of these barriers, and we do that almost every day. The government does that by instituting an environment, a policy and legislative environment that allow women to participate, such as providing the legislation around maternity leave, which is crucial so that women can retain their work. And then we, of course, have a role to play in taking part in work, in seeing that we can do this. We can work in any of the different areas that men are engaged in as well. And we have some fantastic examples on the panel today of young women who are doing just that, breaking some of the biases that keep women into certain jobs. And I think the private sector has a huge role to play also because, of course, the private sector are the engine of growth. So what they do to open up their organisations so that women can contribute both in leadership and in supply chains and across all of the dimensions of their work These are also really critical areas that can improve women's chance of getting a good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Susan, and so well spoken and so true. If I could just move on, let me go to Navya this time, because it is so inspiring to see such young women taking on, such societal pivotal roles in working on, to enriching the environment for women. So, Navya, can you tell us a little bit about what you do? And what are the opportunities you are working on at this point in time?
Thank you for having me here today, and want to wish everyone, a very happy Women's Day, and thank you to everyone for joining in and listening to us. So my name is Navya Nanda, and I'm the co-founder of Ara Health, which is a women's healthcare platform where we provide scientifically backed and reliable information around women's healthcare with a deep focus on feminine health. And I'm also the founder of Project Naveli, which is a nonprofit initiative through which I work on, different projects around period poverty, domestic violence, and legal awareness as well. And I actually work with Mansi, who is, a fellow panelist. We have a project together as well. But I think what I'm currently working on and trying to push forward is definitely, period poverty is something that I've been trying to work on for the last 2 years, which is the inaccessibility to, menstrual products, but not just products, but also information around menstruation. So I really take up every opportunity that I get, to talk about menstruation, because I really believe that the more we talk about it, in settings like this, whether it's on social media or even, at home, is when we will be able to break the stigma that's associated with it till date. So that is something that, I see as a big opportunity where we can really come together and break a lot of the stigmas that are, still existent today in our society. And for that, some of the projects that I've worked on really focus around not just giving women access to menstrual products, but also giving them access to information. Because, I really believe that we need to be more informed about our bodies, and being more informed, we will make more informed decisions. And as women, I think, we live in a society where our bodies are talked about all the time, whether it's the physicality of it, whether it's what our bodies can do. And I think that it's time that we take ownership of our bodies and we stop allowing society to dictate what we do with it. So that's something that, I've been trying to push forward, the message that I've been trying to push forward through my work, in the field of period poverty. And I really am grateful for, Times of India and UN Women for giving me an opportunity to come out here and talk about it, on such a public platform. And I really wish that we can do more of that, collectively.
Thank you so much, Navya. You've been so articulate with your messaging, and it's so inspirational. And because it leads, into what Mansi partners with you on, let me go to Mansi next. Mansi, you are the successful corporate lawyer. So, how did you decide to embark upon this kind of a journey and take on the onus of setting up Pink Legal? So do tell us about what you do.
Hi, Sudha. Good morning, and a very happy Women's Day to everybody here. And thank you so much for having me on this panel. And briefly introduce myself. I think though Sudha has already introduced me a bit. So I am a corporate lawyer, and I have my own corporate law practice based out of Hyderabad. But I am also the founder of Pink Legal, which is India's first and only digital platform which educates women about their legal rights and also helps women access legal resources. And although I obviously, corporate law is my profession, Pink Legal is my passion. And I think I dedicate 50% of my time to both of these areas of my life. And Pink Legal came about to be because as a law student, I realized that although we actually have a lot of laws in favor of women in India, such as the Maternity Benefit Act, which Susan was just talking about, women don't know about these laws. And if they don't know their rights, how are they ever going to access their rights? And one of the most important reasons for this is because laws are very complicated. We don't have any resource from where women can understand the legal language, or a comprehensive place for women to understand all of their legal rights, because they are divided across several different statutes. And this creates a huge divide between the law and people. And that is why I decided to make this information accessible to women and help them understand their rights in the language that they speak. So the way you and I speak today is the same way in which I would want women to understand their rights, as if a friend is explaining it to them. And that is the entire idea behind Pink Legal. But somewhere along the line, actually, women started approaching Pink Legal to help us connect them, to help, they wanted to connect to lawyers because they didn't know where to look for a reliable lawyer or whom to approach because of the stigma and taboo attached to seeking legal help. And therefore, Pink Legal also now runs a helpline for women called Project Nyari, which Navya and I run together, which is basically a free legal and mental health awareness and counseling program for women, as well as Pink Legal connects women to lawyers all across India. So through these initiatives, I hope to bridge the gap between women and the law one step at a time. And thank you for giving me this platform to talk about this initiative, so that I hope more women are aware about, the services that Pink Legal has to offer and are able to use them to their benefit.
Thank you so much, Mansi, because awareness is really the starting point of any kind of empowerment and any kind of development. And you've really gone to the grassroots of identifying what the key problem is and working towards, breaking that challenge and, overcoming it. Let me now go to this extremely smart lady, Captain Zoya, who has broken the sonic barrier, literally. And how? I mean, she's been the youngest commercial pilot to commander an Air India Boeing 777 in way back in 2013. She's commanded an all-women team of pilots to fly Air India's longest non-stop commercial flight over the North Pole. So, when we think of North Pole, we only think of Santa Claus. But Captain Zoya, you are the smartest Santa Claus we have seen. So can you please tell us a little bit about your journey and this entire all-male bastion that you have broken and you've gone into, and did you face any biases or barriers, and how did you overcome them? If there's some learning that women can get out of that, that'll be great. Welcome, Captain.
Thank you so much for the amazing, humbling words, kind words you have showered me with so much of love. I would like to take this opportunity for thanking UN Women to invite me on this prestigious platform to speak on the occasion of International Women's Day. I want to wish every single starry-eyed woman out there who's watching this a very, very happy International Women's Day. And today is a day we all celebrate ourselves and carry forward the celebration for the next 364 days till the next Women's Day comes. So my name is Captain Zoya Agarwal, and I proudly am a commander with our flag carrier Air India on the Boeing 777. And yes, my journey has been all about breaking barriers. I truly feel that women have a huge role to play in shaping the world. And I am sort of a dot named Zoya, an example who is showcasing that women can be the path breaker, the change maker, the trendsetter, and they can shatter any glass ceilings they truly want, so long as they believe in themselves. I come from a background where I had to fight for my aspirations, my goals, my dreams, to make every single thing come true, because back in the days, women were not expected to do non-traditional jobs of where most of the males are. And I had to go against my environment, my society, even my own family, to make those dreams of mine come true. But essentially, what I kept was my focus on my dream. I never let go of my goal, which is what I think is really important to have a generation equality world by 2030 as we envision with the SDG 5, for our women to realize, to unlock their true potential by focusing on what they truly want to do in life and not give up. Because the power of the dream they want to pursue, there is only one person who has the power to push you forward or to say stop to you. And that power lies within themselves. So long as a society, as parents, we can tell our young girls, our children, our women to believe in themselves and follow their dreams with their heart and soul without the bias of dreams having any gender, I think we are going to go successfully towards our generation equality world by 2030, and we'll all get there together.
Oh, that is so wonderfully put, Zoya. Yes, I do completely agree with you that the SDG goals of the government of India can be achieved only with breaking the bias and having gender neutrality. You know, in olden days, it was the men who wore the skirts and the women who wore the pants, because anatomically, that is what suits, you know, our body structure and the kind of work we do. And similarly for men, but somewhere you know, down the ages, it changed. But now anyway, it, you know, we can keep swapping roles. So if we can just go back to Susan. Susan, really just talk a little bit about the framework and the kind of you know, deeper interventions, and could be simpler interventions, that institutions really need to make a difference. So can you talk about, you know, one or two that are really hot at this point in time and that you are working on to change, you know, to make a difference which will have a long lasting impact?
Thank you very much. Well, one of the things that we're doing here and actually around the world is working with the private sector on a program called We Empower Asia. And we're working with private sector organizations to convince them to sign off on what we call the Women's Empowerment Principles. And these are 7 principles that businesses can sign up to, which focus on a range of things that will unlock this potential that Captain Zoya also spoke about. So it's looking at what can businesses do to improve women's leadership. And again, in India, you know, the government has targeted women for boards, you know, a certain number of women to be on private sector boards. And actually, we know that women's leadership on boards translates into an economic dividend for companies. It's associated with, in fact, quite small amounts, not even 50% women and men on boards. But the more women you have, the more profit a company makes, because it includes diversity, and so a business can respond to, you know, customers, both women and men, for example, and can come up with planning and products that suit that market. So the principles look at women's leadership, and also they support businesses signing off on policies that might improve women's chance to hold and retain a job. For example, you know, sexual harassment policies at work, which, because, you know, this kind of harassment can deter women from retaining jobs. So there's a range of different principles, and businesses can do a whole range of things within their own workforce. You know, raising awareness within their workforce about the impact that women will have on business is really, really crucial as well. And that's a small and quite a simple thing to do. Being involved with these kinds of events is also a way of raising awareness beyond, in the community, you know, beyond your own business. And these are things that are all within our reach, as I think this panel can show. So they're just some of the practical things. And then just to look a little bit at those women who are not necessarily in the formal sector, because the informal sector, while it is informal, it still has a huge impact on countries' health and well-being, and even their macro development. So making sure that women can own and control money is really important. So trying to improve women's viability in their small businesses is crucial for so many women and their families in India and beyond India as well. If women own and control income, if they can earn it themselves and control where it's spent, actually it's going to have a huge impact on achieving sustainable development goals, because women are often more likely to invest their hard-earned cash in things that benefit their families' health and well-being of their families. So yeah, they're just some things that we can do.
So true. Thank you so much. At this point in time, I cease to be moderator. I'm not a moderator. Please, whatever, if Susan's saying something and you want to add something to it or take off on that point, the three of you, please feel free to do so. Okay, so I don't want to be the one to ask questions. You can ask questions to each other, and you can just, add to a conversation. Let it just be a conversation. Yeah. So anything else you want? Susan, firstly, thanks so much, because there's so much, this initiative with the private sector is not something that the UN very naturally does in a lot of areas. And in this area, I think this embedding of objectives with private sector is going to take it's a gigantic leap.
Yes,
to make this happen, and really, I'd like to also work with you on this. So this
would be great to have the Times of India, one of the businesses that have signed up. Would be wonderful.
Would really be our pleasure. And the three of you, just do you want to add to anything she has to say, Zoya? Yeah.
No, I think what she's saying is extremely relevant. I think what the way forward for us to also to move towards our sustainable development goals is also to empower our women. From my line of work, from where women are very, when I entered, for example, we only had a handful of girl pilots. And now today we are at the verge where we are the highest in the whole world for women pilots. Like I was just going through a data where there were more than 7,500 licensed holders for women pilots out of almost 18,000 pilot license holders in India, which constitutes to, I can see the surprise on your face.
My goodness, this is more than 1/3. It's about 37-38%. Brilliant.
My bad, 2,700. So that is 15%. Sorry. Yes. So 15% of the total strength, which is still
very significant.
Very significant, considering the numbers in the other countries, which are 4%, 5%. And this is yes. I know it's surprising. Women are really leading the way in India as far as the Indian aviation sector is concerned, and even the corporates. I think the statistics have doubled, being women being the CEO in the last decade, which is phenomenal. So India is going ahead, with a full gung-ho, but what we need to instill is also in the rural sector. These statistics are, for the urban sector. We need to go to the rural sector. We need to educate and also empower the girls with the mindset, that they can achieve whatever they want, truly, to unlock the potential, as Susan ma'am was saying. But so long as we tell them the way, and also educate their parents, who are the true wind beneath their wings, because without family support in India, it is very, very difficult for women to come up. So we all as a society have to come together to promote the big growth so that we can work towards a better future of tomorrow, for having women to be the change makers, the path breakers, the leaders of tomorrow. And for that, we have to start today. Also, I would like to say that we also should promote STEM in a big way, because I
Yes,
feel a
bang
lot
on,
of
bang on.
a, yes, absolutely. And I think that is where a lot of the potential lies in the future as well. Like, I'll talk just about my field. By 2038, Boeing has predicted 800,000 pilots are required. And for that, we have to start now by going into schools and telling our children the importance of STEM. So
Yeah.
I think that also will be very big consideration to push our women towards STEM subjects in future.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, Zoya, because STEM education, which is science and technology and related fields, is also very critically important from a perspective of R&D. Today, all the R&D, worldwide is being led by men who do not think from a perspective of 50% of the world population being women and being consumers. So it starts right at that basic stage of how do we even think of designing an inclusive design, that includes gender, that there's gender neutrality in that, or specific designs for women, and going forth, jobs also needing women in deeply technical fields. System education is a great point that you brought up, Zoya.
Sudha, could I just add to that, that apparently 90% of the jobs of the future will involve a focus on STEM. So this area is so crucial, and again, changing the sort of stereotypes that keep women and girls sort of learning more around the humanities rather than science. It's not that women and girls aren't just as capable. And in fact, India's got amazing representation of women scientists, including in, one of the leading scientists who developed the vaccine for COVID is an Indian woman. So there's amazing scientists who are great role models. But I just wanted to ask, actually, Navya, around the issue. You mentioned period poverty. And, we were talking about the importance of women in rural areas being involved in this economic development and economic growth. What do you mean by period poverty, and what impact does that have on women's economic potential?
So, like I mentioned, period poverty, I think most believe is, the inaccessibility to sanitary pads or menstrual hygiene products. But actually, it's also an inaccessibility to information and services and infrastructure that supports healthy menstruation. So that would mean, information about menstrual hygiene that a woman should practice during her period. It also means the inaccessibility to products in public areas like metros, train stations, shopping centers. We still don't have access to sanitary pads, in most public toilets today in India as well. And people assume that that's only in rural parts of the country, but even if you step out in Mumbai today and you go to a shopping mall or a restaurant, you will not find a single sanitary pad in any of the public bathrooms today. So I think period poverty really encapsulates that entire situation that we see today. And when you ask, how that affects women's economic, ability to, it's a lot we see today, even in, big companies who are trying to take that push towards offering period leaves to women, where, they're giving them 4 to 5 days off a month, to offering period leaves, which is something that we've seen recently. But the same company that's offering a woman a period leave doesn't have any sanitary pads in their bathrooms either. So it is kind of a situation where people are making that effort to try and be inclusive and be aware, and give women what we've been asking for so long. But I think I really believe that change can only begin at home. And I think that no matter what we go out into the public and see, we have to come home to an environment that is supportive and inclusive of what our body needs. how we talk about periods at home with our parents, and especially the men in the house, how the men in the family, address, menstrual pain or, PMS, which is something that we see a lot. Even, talking about periods, I think has to be done in a very transparent manner at home before it can be addressed so publicly. Because when you come from an environment that gives you that confidence and strength to, talk openly about your body, in the comfort of your home, then you really feel confident enough to voice your opinions when you go out into society. And I think that's the trickle effect that we need. And I would hope that, more families, more parents, especially fathers and brothers, can have open conversations about periods at home, because it's not just important for the girls and the women in the family, but also the younger boys, because they're going to grow up watching the older men in the family and how they behave with the women at home. And I think that just frames what the future of society will look like. So I think that is really important. And I think that's what I would say is something that is really needed in this particular space to make it more transparent and destigmatize it.
No, that's so true. And the other thing also is that, Navya, if there's awareness and there's accessibility to products that make you comfortable, then you also become more economically productive, and overall your health improves, because there's so much of infection that thanks to period poverty, women go through, and they become unproductive, during that time. So it can decrease discomfort as well as, have a positive bearing on health.
And I'd also, like to add, when, you talked about the private sector being heavily involved in, making this kind of change. We have seen for the longest time, large multinationals that sell sanitary products still have advertisements where they pour blue liquid onto a sanitary pad as opposed to red. And I think that, the kind of messaging that you send out through ads is subconsciously something that we, take in when watching it. And recently we've seen maybe some changes in that, but for the longest time, the advertising wasn't transparent. The way that, we shied away from pouring that red liquid and we, pour blue liquid. But so I think these small things need to change. And as the private sector, we need to take that responsibility upon us to make sure that our communication is as transparent. Because you can't be a manufacturer of a sanitary pad and shy away from talking about it openly.
Yes, yeah, totally agree, Navya, even though in that the government wasn't allowing us to do that. So it was more, the INB ministry which had rules put down, and that is breaking now with a lot of representation and voices, of the likes of you being heard, and that's getting broken. It's a great point. Mansi, can you, give us some examples of how Pink Legal has, can you recount one or two incidents of really, something that stood out? And the learning that you have had through this experience of how has this really touched women?
So, Sudha, when I started Pink Legal, actually today it completes 2 years on 8th March, because I launched Pink Legal on 8th March 2020.
Okay.
And when I started Pink Legal, I thought that, the minute you step out of your house, you face sexual harassment on the road, somebody's catcalling, somebody's staring at you. So I thought that that section of the website will be the most visited and we'll get most number of queries on what do you do about sexual harassment on the streets. But I was really shocked when I realized that 80% of the women who reached out to us or our traffic was actually for the domestic violence section on our website. And although I was aware that domestic violence is a huge problem in our country, I had never firsthand seen the depth of this problem. We had read statistics, but to see that women are actually, this is the biggest problem that they're facing, and this is within their own homes and from their own family members who are supposed to provide you an environment of comfort, an environment of love and respect, and that is what is missing. So I was really, really upset to, understand this reality of women in India. And a lot of women would write to us asking us their legal queries. And sometimes when I would read their queries, it was really shocking to even see that women are actually going through these kind of dire circumstances. I wouldn't want to describe them over here because I'm sure it would make us uncomfortable to even hear the story, but the kind of experiences that these women are living with on a day-to-day basis. So at Pink Legal, we definitely try to support them by firstly helping them understand what their legal rights are in such a situation, and even helping them by, through Nyairi, which is our helpline. But apart from that, we also want to encourage women and young girls to change their mindset, to bring about a new culture where they don't feel that they have no other option but to live in an abusive household or to put up with domestic violence, and that they have no way out. And we are doing this through communities that we're creating through Pink Legal, called the Pink Legal Clubs and Pink Legal Beacons, which are Pink Legal's initiatives to empower young high school and college going students to form their own clubs, to talk about, to start conversations about important issues around patriarchy, and to spread awareness among their peers about their legal rights. And I feel that if each, so today we have more than 50 Pink Legal Clubs all over India, which have a community of more than 700 members. So if each of these members is able to educate even 10 people around them, I think we are able to, educate 7,000 people in one go. And through this, I hope to create a domino effect where through each club, through each person who is a part of the Pink Legal community, I want to empower them enough to be able to empower people around them and to instill confidence in young women that you can be whatever you want. Marriage is not the end of your life, and nobody else can tell you what you should do or how you should live your life. You don't need your husband or in-laws permission to decide whether you can work, what the timings of your work should be, what kind of work can you take up, which, okay, yeah, we allow our daughter-in-law to work, we are very progressive, but who are you to, take that authority and put yourself in that place where you allow her, or that she can work, but as long as it doesn't affect her household responsibility. So maybe she can do something part-time. So to change that mindset so that women truly become emotionally and financially independent, and we break this chain of domestic violence and suffering in silence. So I think that's what we're trying to achieve through Pink Legal.
That's wonderful. Actually, I had goosebumps just listening to you, Mansi. It's 12:07 and we have the few minutes, 12:15, we wrap up. Any last thoughts? Anything that, the four of you just want to talk? Can we just begin with Zoya and just wrap this up?
Ma'am, I think what Navya, Mansi, and I spoke of, it only pointed towards one direction, and which was beautifully, I think, summarized by Susan, ma'am. I think all of us are united at UN Women over here conceptually, is that the change of perspective, change of mindset is a need of the hour, whether it's towards menstruation, whether it's towards the legal rights, and whether it's towards the growth with respect to the economical growth of the society. And I think so long and we can work towards the growth of the mindsets, the perspectives of everyone around us, the women and the people who are surrounding them, we can work towards a more inclusive and diverse setting where we have more of a societal and economic growth, where the future generations of our women, our girls of tomorrow who are going to be women, are going to thrive for the betterment of this world, because women are 50% of the world's population. And when 50% of the world's population thrives by achieving their dreams, by being true to their own dreams and their visions, by knowing their legal rights, by knowing what is good towards them with respect to the menstruation, by having better health. I think when all these things are combined, we work towards a better world, which is going to lead to a better future of our beautiful Mother Earth. And that's what our ultimate mission is, and we'll work towards generation equality.
Oh, so well summarized, Zoya. Thank you. I think, women will help sustaining the earth ecosystem for longer. If we are being included everywhere. Last thoughts from the other three of you? Would you like to go, Susan?
Well, just to reiterate really what I think that Captain Zoya has summarized it. And in some ways, it's the old feminist thing about, the personal is political with a small p. What we experience as individuals can either sort of help or hinder us in our participation in the public realm. So it's women like you all that I think will make a difference and are making a difference and will make the world a better place.
Thank you, Susan. Navya, Mansi?
I'd just like to say that it's always, like I mentioned to you earlier as well, that it's an inspiration to us that, you give us this platform to come and talk about the kind of work that we're doing, come and voice our opinions, come and talk about things that matter to us. So I would really say that, it's people like you and, Susan and UN Women for giving us the opportunity to come out there and use our voices and use the passion that we have inside us to make a change. So I would like to end by saying, a big, big thank you to, both of you for hearing us out, because I think there's so much that we want to do as women and as the youth of this country. And I think it only fuels us, when you appreciate that by inviting us here and allowing us to talk about what matters and what needs to change. So a big, big thank you to you.
Thank you so much. Yes, youth and women. Mansi. I think that 1 + 1, which is going to be equal to 11 and not 2.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for closing thoughts, I just wanted to say that to each and every girl, woman who's watching this today or who's watching us, I hope that you go back and think about the internal biases of patriarchy that you face in your day-to-day life, which we have normalized and accepted as a way of life. For example, if your brother has different rules in the house as you, or as a girl, you are taught to lay the table or clear the table, but your brother is not taught this. So it is these smaller biases that actually snowball into larger biases, which lead to a patriarchal society and which ultimately hold our women back from the workforce, because they instill the belief in us that no matter what you do, you are ultimately responsible for taking care of your house. And I think that is something that is a very personal issue to me, which I really want to, help bring about a change in whichever way I can by changing mindsets. So start looking at, start recognizing the bias and start breaking the bias, which is also the theme for this year's IWD. So let's start by breaking the bias within our own households, so that when we come out in the society, we are able to come out in a more free and open-minded society. And lastly, of course, thank you, Times of India and UN Women, for giving us this platform to express ourselves. It is a matter of privilege and honor for me to be with such august company. So I'm really grateful for this. Thank you.
As a last parting thought, I think Mansi has really hit the bullseye, because it begins right from our birth. It begins from our home environment. It begins with parents treating children equally. And that's what gives us the confidence to go out and do and conquer, and do everything that we are capable of. So all of us in our own way, I think, need to be able to propitiate this in every household that we come across. That confidence building gesture happens right from birth. And Zoya touched upon it when she said that there were barriers when she chose her own profession within the house. That should not happen. So if that gets broken right from infancy, then sky is the limit for all of us. With this, I think, Zoya, you want to say something?
I think I would just like to add on to that.
Please.
I think, dreams have no gender, and that's where we should work towards when the kids are born into our families. That's where we start from. Let them dream, allowing them to dream without a gender.
Great. With that beautiful thought, thank you very much, you 4 inspirational women. I've really I've been fortunate enough to meet all of you and speak to you. I don't know how the 45 minutes went. And I hope our viewers have found this as exciting as I did. Thank you so much. And let's be
So much.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Bye.
Lovely to spend time with you on International Women's Day.
Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello and welcome. This is a very special conversation we are having today, and let me put a little context to it. We are in uncertain times. If that sounds like a cliche, take a deep breath and spare a moment to think about it. For a while, 2 years ago, more than half the world had been shut down. There was pandemic all around and there was uncertainty. Jobs, growth, and more. There's a lot of uncertainty around us. If I were to talk in the language of business, commodity prices are going through the roof, leaving policymakers uncertain about the road ahead. There's more uncertainty around with geopolitical developments as governments are trying to combat the rise of divisive forces around the world. Welcome to this special session today, Womenpreneurs, Fueling Ambition. But why am I talking about this today? Businesses and markets hate uncertainty. And that is one of the themes, one of the ideas. But in all this uncertainty around, if I may point out, there's more than hope with compassion, love, and care. That is, if I may use the word guaranteed. Look at the women around you and you see how the care extends to everyone around. They may or may not be part of your family or friends, but there is a certainty to it. And that is what makes it special. With that approach of compassion and care, they are achievers in their own chosen areas. Something that could set the agenda for a better future for all of us as a community. It is not just about the care, it is that special bonding that women bring to the job that they do. Well, not just the job, even the community around us. Today, I have a few women who are achievers in their own chosen areas, and let's talk about their story. It's time to talk about womenpreneurs, fueling ambition, and let me first introduce them. Jarmina Menon, founder and chief strategy officer, Noetic. Sarmishta Majumdar, founder, Mindfully Sorted. It's a mental health talks about mental health. Deepika Singh, founder, She Means Business. Jayanti Bhattacharjee, and she's co-founder India Hemp and Company, and Sujata Biswas co-founded Suta along with her sister. Thank you so much, lovely ladies, for joining us on this special day. And we're going to be talking about some of the challenges you face, some of how you address that, and maybe what is changing about the country that we live in. What is changing about the tomorrow that we promise for all of us together as a community? Let me first hear the stories of the women. Jarmina, if I can request you to first go and tell your story, if you can make it brief so that we get everyone to speak about her.
My entrepreneurial journey, Ashu, is pretty accidental. It's actually a Corona journey. One of the first persons to probably be unemployed when Corona struck in March 2020. And I was sure I was not going to sit and take a holiday. And that's where I decided to start my consultancy, use my years of experience to work with startups and SMEs, because there was an immediate need to go omni-channel. And with my experience in retail, experience in digital marketing, I thought this was the best time to kind of help entrepreneurs and startups who are wanting to go, O2O as the term now is, offline to online. And that's what I totally jumped into. It's been a great journey. Today, I have 3 retail brands whose digital journey I'm leading, and also working now with a tech SaaS startup to help them build a brand. So I think opportunities were there, up for grabbing, and I'm glad I took them.
Jayanti, your story, if we can hear that.
Hi. So Ashu, ours is also very similar to this. I co-founded my company with my sister, much like Sujata, in 2019 December. And this is when she was here in Bangalore, but she actually lives in Barcelona, and she went back to Barcelona in Feb, and that's when the world shut down, right? So I haven't seen her since the pandemic for 2 years now. And we have actually managed to work through different timelines to different continents, and we're one of the top 3 hemp brands in India today. So I think there are so many brands that are like COVID survivor brands, and we're happy to say we're one of them.
Sujata, what's been your story?
Hi. So my brand is quite old. It's almost 6 years old. It's called Suta, and we work with almost 16,000 plus weavers and craftsmen across India, and of which 55 to 60% are women. So we can proudly say that. We make contemporary clothing. So we make saris, blouses. We wanted to revolutionize sari, and I hope we have made a mark. And we have 150 employees, and the office staff, it's 80% women again. So yeah, happy Women's Day.
Okay. What's been your story, Sarmishta, if you can share that as well?
All right. So my organization is called Mindfully Sorted, and Mindfully Sorted is a behavioral health platform. I've been an HR professional for 15 plus years, and I've been very passionate about behavioral science. And I have always believed that not having mental illness does not mean you have a positive mental health. There's a lot of work that we have to continuously do to be resilient, and our pandemic was an eye-opening situation. So when I also went through my maternity, I realized that how important, even if you are the one of those people who is a gung-ho people, a happy-go-lucky people, but there are situations that which it comes into where you really have to take care and do something for your mental well-being. And that's when I said, this is the time for me to start. And I started Mindfully Sorted in 2020. We are helping people to sort their life. We are helping women to find safe spaces to talk, express, heal, and grow, and be more resilient.
Something very important in these current times. Deepika, how has your story panned out during this period?
So, I always wanted to do something of my own. The problem is I never knew what. But in 2012, the airline that I was working for folded up, and I thought this is a great opportunity. Let me try something of my own. I did sort of flounder for a couple of years. I pivoted. I started with something. I started with employee engagement events. It didn't really take off the way I wanted it to take off. But then I think 2 or 3 years later, I kind of found what I really wanted to do. I loved speaking. And I was always, even during college, I was always doing events, emceeing events, and I sort of developed a few workshops, developed a few training programs, and that's what I started doing. And I absolutely love that. It's been a few years since I've been doing that now. I also create content around life skills, and I think I pretty much have found what I really love doing, and I love it.
Awesome, awesome. But obviously, as each of you have gone about your own set of passion, your own businesses, built those small businesses, what are some of those challenges? And I'd like to ask the two women here who worked with their sisters, because there's that special bonding and, of course, wading, if I may use the word, through the situation, being a woman. So first, if you can go, Jayanti, and then maybe I'll come to Sujata.
So I'll break this up in terms of pandemic, post-pandemic, and being a woman entrepreneur. So I feel during the pandemic, what was difficult was we just launched a brand. So to keep that going, right? Because again, our material was stalled on a highway, packaging prices had gone through the roof. It was a huge issue. But I feel at that point of time, we really put our resources, we pulled in, we said, okay, listen, we're going to get through this. And we did. And we did, I think, largely because of the relationship we have as sisters as well. Because it was a very difficult time, especially with my sister in Barcelona at that moment, and was really badly hit, right? So I feel that was a sister connect that we keep going back to. Of course, we fight, we've got our moments, but then it's always easier to come back because we've known each other all our lives pretty much. So that was one of the challenges in terms of, not being able to be there for each other as a sibling physically for us, which also takes its toll. But I think as a woman entrepreneur in this whole startup line, what is difficult is for people to take us seriously, because I feel we have to repeatedly prove ourselves over and over and over again. And I was a Shark Tank finalist, and I was aired in Jan, and a lot of people that who had wouldn't answer my calls. They called me, they're like, "Madam, we saw you on Sony. Why don't you come and visit our facility?" But it takes that kind of validation sometimes at that level for people to say, okay, listen, this is not just some overnight business that she's opened. And, because sometimes people think that women open businesses and they'll shut down because you're having a baby or you're getting married or I don't know, or you have to, lots of reasons. So to me, personally, I constantly work hard on proving myself to myself and to people around me as well. But it's also the person I am. I give it my 100%.
Okay, Sujata, did this kind of a challenge, did it bother you at all as you work with your sister?
So working with my sister, okay. So I think it's a if whoever listens to it, they say, "Oh my God, you're so lucky you have a sister, and you could start something with your sister." And I agree completely that nobody else will understand you the way your sister will. But at the same time, there are challenges because your sister like nobody else will, right? So it's like having a personal and a professional life, which is not coming into each other, and it's not causing any issues. But yeah, I think there are more good than bad. So I would say the challenges, it's very similar to what Jayanti also mentioned, is not talking about the COVID, because COVID was kind of good for us because we could onboard many weavers during these times. The one more reason is because me and my sister both are not from textile background. We are engineers, MBAs. And for us, initially from day one to establish that, we are here for a long term and not a project which we just started to probably just like a passion project, which they say. So that was challenging. And even for the longest time, we were still think that our father is running the business for some reason. They just don't understand that me and my sister run the business. So yeah, we do face this challenge. It's easy said than done. I would have loved to say that, no, I don't face it in this world. Everything is fine. But the moment these things come up, it just disturbs you, thinking we have reached so far, and some days we have to again prove and say, no, we are here, seriously, we are here. Even after 6 years, we get questions sometimes which are really strange and so biased that you would want to literally end this bias forever. But yeah, it's there.
Okay, that's a challenge. Now, what Jayanti also mentioned that we need to talk about, the need to prove. Jabina, tell us about that challenge. And as women hear you, I want to understand what goes inside the head when you face such a situation, and how do you overcome it? Why is that need to prove yourself again and again?
I think Jayanti put it very well, that we have this challenge of wanting to prove it. And if I look back at my 25-year-old career, I had to prove that getting married was not going to change my commitment to work. Having a child was not going to change my commitment to work. And today also, you need to kind of explain that you are not doing it as a pastime. People really think women entrepreneurs are doing something to keep themselves busy, and maybe it's a toy we play with, and God knows when we will start losing interest in the toy, much like a child. So I think that's the biggest challenge. And I have another peculiar challenge, because unlike my young co-panelists, I am 50 plus, and somewhere the ageism is probably harsher on a woman than it is for a man. So it's almost like, I'm talking digital marketing. A lot of people don't think a person as old as me would even understand digital. I don't know why they think so. So to me, to say that I could, help you with a digital marketing solution to a perspective, and definitely a younger perspective, has not been easy. Coincidentally, most of my clients, except my tech client, who thankfully is young, all others are 40 plus. So I'm not sure whether ageism is another angle which is higher for my gender. I really have not got that answer, Ashu.
Okay, these are challenges that we face as well. Sarmishta, coming from an HR background, how do institutions address this challenge? And we'll come to the more of HR part, and I'd want if you can address that as well. But for the moment, what are some of those institutional changes we want to bring about, or we should be bringing about?
Right. I think first I would like to start saying that there is a lot of work which has happened in last 15 years. And I was very fortunate that I joined Accenture in my early days. And I have seen the kind of step-by-step focus they have done. And today they are talking about 50-50 diversity, right? So equality. So, I have seen a lot of organizations which are, similarly other organizations that I worked with, which has really put that focus. And today, the fact that I was able, when my child was just 1 year old, I was able to venture out into a segment, into an entrepreneurship journey, was because of a lot of learning that has been given to us in this last 15 years. But having said that, I think there is a lot of changes which are required. One is right from the kind of hiring that you do. How do you bring down the biases? And when we are talking about breaking the biases are so inherent that, I don't see there is any foolproof program that can actually disable all the biases that we all carry from our childhood. Right. So I wish there was, but there is not. It's only the effort that, and only about, building that muscle memory that we say, right? When you keep on banging, a lot of people say, why women stay? Why not men stay? I think that building that muscle memory, continuously talking loud and clear about inclusion and diversity in all the possible spaces and doing whatever you feel right every year and evolving is the only way to do it. There's not, and no one should think we are overdoing it, because it will take generations and generations to make those changes with whatever that you kind of do, whether it's special leaves, whether it's special hiring tools, whether it's special psychometric assessments, whether it's special training, whatever you're doing, you have to consistently do it for many, many, many more years to bring the equality that we are talking about from the mind of people. Yes, but I feel there is a lot of progress which we have made in all the sectors.
Okay, Deepika, in the last 10 years, as you've grown your business, what is probably 2 or 3 big changes that you've seen, something that you may have welcomed, you've loved it, and you'd want to see more of it?
So, when I work as a trainer and I work as a speaker, and I'm seeing now, so when I started that, I got a lot of support from my family. I got a lot of, in fact, when we talk about challenges, when we talk about, the system not supporting, I have actually got the reverse experience. My family, people around me have supported me a lot. And I think 10 years back, there weren't any support systems apart from that. There were no networking groups per se for women. There were no bodies that were actually helping women. There were no VCs or venture capitalists that were focusing on women, right? So all the support I got was from my family, my friends, and I really used that. I said, these are my strengths. I have to be smart and I have to use these. So I went to my friends and I said, will you give me work? Will your organization give me work? Today, I see that women entrepreneurs, particularly in the last 10 years, I think there's been a lot in terms of at least trying to provide systems where they can network more, where there are more cohorts which are for women specifically, because I've also noticed that women, particularly smaller businesses, feel overwhelmed or for some reason don't want to join networking groups or cohorts which are like gender neutral, like there's a mix, right? They feel more comfortable in joining networking communities or joining cohorts or joining networking bodies that are only women. As they grow and scale, they then start mixing. So that's the change that I've seen in the last 10 years. And I'm very happy that this has happened for whatever reason. I think a lot of people are doing it also because there's business in women entrepreneurship nowadays. It's a big business. But I also feel that it has helped women. All of these bodies that are now trying to support and help women entrepreneurs scale up. I think that's the one thing that has changed in the last 10 years.
Certainly, community groups are great, and they offer great platforms for business and networking. So, Jayanti and Sujata, Deepika spoke about some of the challenges faced in terms of VCs. What has been your experience? How would you put it, Sujata, if you can go first?
So Suta is a bootstrapped company, so we haven't taken any external funding yet. So there are reasons that I'm not going to discuss now. But anyway, so coming to women, do they face challenge when they have to raise funds? So there are a lot of talks that happen about it, but Suta has been approached by the biggest of investors for investment. So I feel if taking away the women bit slightly from here, I think if your business has merit and you show numbers consistently, whether you're a woman or a man, I think the challenges are equal. If your idea is really good, then people would approach you. But having said that, if you haven't proven yourself, let's say you have a tech idea which has not been established, I know a couple of my entrepreneur friends who do face challenges, even if there are VCs who just aim to fund women. There are groups who encourage women to come on and get incubated. But I know there are challenges for sure in that area. So personally, I can't say much because I have been the lucky ones, but I know there are.
Jayanti, challenges, what
Yeah,
do
so
you...
it's actually, sorry. So it's interesting because I'd like to add a little bit to what Deepika was saying. And we are in the stage where we are looking for funding, right? So, and right now it's very, very interesting how everything's just opened up for us in terms of being on Shark Tank. We were made an offer which we declined, right? And it did get a little bit rough on screen and stuff. But what happened after that has been amazing. Like Abha Bakaya, who is the editor of the Times Group, she called me. She's like, listen, I'm flying you to Delhi. We have this group of women called Ladies Who Lead, WLW. Come in and meet them. And then when you go there, there are people like Radhika Gai, people who are really on top of their game. And what's interesting in these groups is it's at 10:30 in the morning in a coffee shop somewhere. Then there is also a Leap Club. There are so many of these groups that have come up now. There's CXXO with Dwani. There's just a lot, but it doesn't always involve drinking and socializing at 9 o'clock at night, but it's at 10 o'clock in the morning, so I have another one. So it's quite amazing on how efficient women can be and helpful at the same time, but they'll do it on a Saturday morning between 10 to 12. It won't have to be a Friday night from 9 o'clock to some fancy dinner with wining and dining. But it's amazing. Like I was sat down, I met Malika as well from Momco, who's actually sold her company to the Good Glam Group. And she said, listen, let's go over your presentation. She sat with me for half an hour. We just sat me. I mean, this is the kind of mentorship and guidance we need at this stage, right? Because it's easy to keep pitching to investors, without getting somebody to say, I'll tell you how it's done. I'll show you the path and I'll put you in touch with people I know. Because this, like last Saturday when I was standing there and pitching at 10:30, I felt that I was this really safe space where everyone's fixing each other's crowns. You know what I'm saying? And these are stalwarts in the industry. She's a unicorn. I met my first unicorn. So I feel that, yes, now, today, I feel lucky to be an entrepreneur, a woman entrepreneur, because there are resources. There are resources which are being put aside for us, which I think is also, we have to call it out. It is high time. You know what I'm saying? Because Ashu, there's another thing that I had read, that for a job, a woman wouldn't apply till she meets 99% of the criteria. But a man would apply if he meets 40% of it, So for all of us with businesses, no, this is nothing personal, it's not. But you know what I'm saying? So we've come so far and we're so confident. So all we need is that little step to take us to the other side. And it's there nowadays, which I'm very, very grateful for.
So, Jermina, you've been around, obviously, with a 25-year experience. What could this change mean for women? And if you can also explain from your experience, what opportunity does it present to women entrepreneurs and the young 20-somethings who want to become the entrepreneurs of tomorrow?
I think the groups that are being formed today, formally or informally, Leap Club is a very formal mention. Deepika and I belong to something informal called She Mantra. There, what happens is that you can ask for help and there are 10 people raising their hands. You really can't take all the help that comes. That's what is benefiting. What is also helping, I think, for the millennials and Gen Z is that they are being brought up by a different set of values and principles than, say, somebody like me. So today, for them, I think a lot of women around here have broken a lot of these barriers, broken a lot of these thoughts that you cannot do it. And hence, they are more open to networking. There are also equal mixed gender networking groups where you are considered on your merit. I'm also on one such group in Bangalore. And I must say that over there, gender doesn't matter. You have a challenge, people are there.
Okay, looks like we're just having a little audio challenge, Jamina. If we try and see if you can fix that while we continue the conversation. Sarmishta, in terms of the institutional changes, the formal changes that need to be made, what would you suggest should be done so that these small companies, these small businesses, they can make those changes? And as Sujata was, I think, mentioning, they have about 80% women in their among the employees, so that it becomes a more inclusive workplace where it's the system that wins and you're all geared up to do bigger things.
Right, right. I think one of the interesting thing, and I would like to highlight here that I come from Assam, right? The stories that we are talking and the ecosystem that we are experiencing is a very privileged ecosystem, right? The stories that you have, and there are a lot of entrepreneurs right from Kashmir to the remotest place of Northeast who are making amazing stuff, who are supplying, who are making their, running their homes with those. So I think the ecosystem or institutionalizing them, we need to cater where you're talking about that putting certain things in numbers and facts and targets and goals makes a difference. It has to not be a good to have to just as a employer branding exercise, but it has to be a a goal that the organization is loud enough to share, a goal that is there in the performance appraisal forms of all the leaders, that this is the kind of diversity that you need to bring in your team. Because it's a new adaptation of practices. It will not come very automatically. The first generation of women who will join a team which was very exclusively a men's hub will take their learning curve, but it has to be forced, right? Sometimes initially, but once you force it, and I have worked in automotive industry, once you actually put those numbers and if you start driving it, people might crib around, people may not be happy, women finding women to fit into those roles might be challenging. But once that marriage actually happens, the next cycle becomes a trend, right? So it's like Uber cab drivers, it's like Ola cab drivers, it's like any profession that you take, unless you try to do it a little bit more, like you mentioned, in a structured way with number, goals, target in all the right places, driven from the top, and then it might have the initial hiccups like every other challenges, like how we took time to adopt computers in our offices. Similarly, there will be challenges, not to say, but it becomes a habit, it becomes a practice, and that's where it has to be kept in terms of the so-called term sheets, in terms of goals, in terms of our commitment, that whenever we are doing, we need to. And if, say, organizations who are benefiting or startups who are benefiting from the customers of tier 2 cities, we need to empower the women of tier 2 cities, because India is not just 4 metros, it's much beyond that. Okay. So it is important that if those generation of women come forward, the next generation of women that we are building actually is kind of, will be flourishing much more with empowerment.
Deepika, that fear of failure, when you were reaching out to family and friends in the early days, what went through your mind? How should the average woman, and Samishta mentioned about India is not just those 4 or 6 or 10 metros. How do the women in smaller places, they overcome that challenge? What goes on in the head about that fear of failure?
It's a huge fear. It's I when I started speaking training, I also wanted to start a YouTube channel in my 40s. And I remember everyone asking, and I was so fearful of the fact that, what are people going to say, how much trolling is going to happen, etc. So fear of every small thing, whether it's starting a business, I pivoted, my whole business pivoted after like 3 years, started a YouTube channel. I think you need to develop, as women business owners, you need to develop a core set of people that you can not feel fearful about bouncing your ideas off. That's really, really important. I think women find it difficult, perhaps because of the fear of failure, find it difficult to even mention this is what I want to start doing, because so even before they start, they have negated the idea and finished off the idea because the whole fear of failure. Start talking to people. It's okay to talk about entrepreneurship. And this is where I feel that, so I see a lot of young boys talking startup. I don't see a lot of young girls talking startup. I think we need to start teaching entrepreneurship, first of all. There is nobody who tells you how to make a business plan, and you learn everything as you go along. And then the fear of failure, because it's unknown. First, so you're starting a business. That in itself is, you're going to put in money, and you're going to look for clients. And what if it fails? Uber say there's no one telling you what to do. So I think if you have some sort of a base, we need to start looking at teaching entrepreneurship to not just young girls, everyone, because I also see that a lot of women get into entrepreneurship much later in life. I've done it, because you get into the corporate this thing and then you fall out for whatever reason, and then you want to get back, but you want to do it on your own terms. So a lot of women actually start small businesses or even larger businesses much later. Somebody needs to teach you. So one thing is to arm yourself with knowledge, talk to people, and have conviction in your ideas and have conviction. It's very difficult. It's very difficult, but you need to have conviction in what you're doing, and then you tell yourself it's okay if I fail. And there are many people now who are telling you it's okay, if you fail. No one cares. This whole spirit of no one cares. If my business doesn't do well beyond 1 week of listening to some people, it has, no one cares. You can always bounce back. My employee engagement firm failed. So it's okay. I pivoted, did something else. But you do need knowledge, you need some sort of education. I wish we could be provided that. And I also feel that a small supportive set of people who tell you that, this is okay, this is the next step you should take, and it's okay, that's very, very required. So you need to build that support for yourself.
Jamina, with your experience, how would you advise? So let's talk about the women who want to build tomorrow's businesses. And again, what Shamisa mentioned has got my attention for the moment. Beyond the metros, that's where the real mass is. What would you advise some of those women who look up to people like you?
Their problems are perhaps, a lot more than what we.
So, Jamina, your audio is not clear. If you can just try and fix that, the mouthpiece maybe.
Is it better now?
Yeah, slightly better. It's slightly better.
So I think we all know that we are privileged being urban city, entrepreneurs, and women in tier 2, tier 3, even in the villages, probably need a lot more boosting, lot more family support. The advice is saying that be strong and be very clear about what you want to do, and more importantly, ask for help. I think women find it easier to ask for help, and ask for help and keep asking till you say a yes. You will hear a lot of no. I think even we hear a lot of no. But the point is that are you going to persist? Because people are really looking for that persistence, and they really want you to believe. And of course, do everything to show us why you want to do it. You want to help other people. You want to help, your village, your district, your state. I think those are the values also which people will buy into, and women tend to, do more businesses which are about supporting other people compared to men. And that's what I would suggest that they do it. Don't give in. You have to put in a little bit more effort, a little bit more no's you have to listen, but the yes has to come. It will come.
Okay, so let's ask the two women entrepreneurs who work with their sisters. And again, that's a special feeling. I just can't talk enough.
I love how we're being clubbed.
It's something that so if you ask me, or my set of friends, I can't see anyone doing that with their brother or sister. It doesn't come to mind. So it's kind of caught my attention as well. What are some of those challenges you faced when you were an all-women entrepreneur team doing that? Sujata, if you can go first.
Challenges as all women team, is that's what you asked, right?
Yeah, and also, Sujata, because you mentioned 80% women, so it again brings this particular kind of a culture at the workplace, which you as an entrepreneur would be leading.
Yeah. So I would like to talk about the culture we wanted to build at Suta. So me and my sister, when we both quit, we wanted to create a happy place. And by happy place, it just doesn't mean that, you just, don't scold, or there are no processes, you do whatever you want to do, not that. But then we wanted everybody to be comfortable with however they are. So, it's not just about gender, just, binary. It's also non-binary. We talk about it. There are policies about it. So when we as like me and my sister both decided that we will have a structure which is very fluid, when there are intrapreneurs in our company, so we hired people who would just lead the company, like their division as their own company. So we made sure that that kind of a culture is there in our company. And for the longest time, we were just all women's team. So when you mention all women's, I'm like, oh my God, how did Ashu know about this? But then, yeah, but it was not because we wanted it to be all women, just because we found the women, they had like brilliant, CV, and the passion matched with ours. So there were teams who were just leading departments, and we would just not interfere. They would just run the division on their own terms. And when we went to villages also, we wanted our artisans and weavers community to also understand what we are saying. So when we started working with a group of weavers, so we started with 2 weavers, we made sure that even if the wife or the daughter is also working with the man always used to just take the salary. You would just come, like the money, they would just come, deposit the sari, QC is done, the quality check is done, and he would just get the money. And we didn't like it. And hence we made sure all the women also have their own accounts, because it just wasn't fair, right? Just because he's coming and he's working, he's coming and taking the work, and he's coming and depositing, he should not take the money. So we made sure that these kind of inclusive steps, like small steps, but it's such meaningful step, even if it's not a big amount, but whatever you're doing, you should just get the money for that. So yeah, we wanted that to be the core principles of the company.
It's very interesting what Sujata is saying, Jayanti, because special needs is something that a woman understands. Well, does she understand better? I would bet on that. And it's not just about the special needs of women, also special needs of community, especially able people, communities which may be marginalized. How does that show up in a woman entrepreneur's journey? How does the company get sensitized about it?
So I think as when you have co-founders as women, automatically you generally tend to employ more women because you're looking out, and you're not, what happens when you build a community, but you also are building a support network for them and for yourself. So what we do at India Hemp & Co is we constantly get people to upskill. Okay, so when we have them, I have employed people who didn't have their college fees to pay. We said, okay, listen, let's try, let's give you a shot, let's see what you can bring. And now they're one of my best employees. So I feel as women, we have to walk the talk. You can't say I only run, I just want to hire men because they won't have to take leave as often. But then we're also very, very clear on a few things, because sometimes what happens, Ashu, is women, that divide between work and family is very blurry. So you talk about your kids and the problems and everything at work, which is something that men don't do. They keep it very, very separate, which is why the men come across as way more professional, and sort of, even if you have to send them out to a meeting, that it's just going to be this. So we are constantly very mindful of that. And that's something that we let percolate right through. Another thing that I wanted to add, Ashu, to something that Deepika said, was it's so important for a startup, if you're a man or a woman, to be part of an incubator or an accelerator program, because Sharmishta and I are both part of IIMB in IIMB Bangalore. So what this does is, like when she talked about a business plan, when you talk about mentorship, when you talk about KPIs, to be taken seriously, you need to know the jargon. You need to understand the business world. You can't say, okay, I'm a women entrepreneur, I need all this done for me, and this is my ticket. No, you need to be upskilled yourself. You need to be on top of things. And how do you get that? accelerators. I mean, it was so tough. It was so tough to work and attend, all these classes. It was all now, I mean, now you can do digitally as well. But I feel it was such a blessing because we are where we are today only because we have a mentor from IIM, we have that support structure, we've got this entrepreneurial toolkit, because there's so much that happens in the tech space that we're not even aware of, right? And which really helps us in terms of getting things done faster. So they have teams there saying that, okay, listen, this is new, we've got this for you, use it. So I feel like, and it's free, So I feel like there are these wonderful resources like I am right across, right? It's not only Bangalore, Ahmedabad, Jaipur, everybody has one there. So if you just tap into that, enroll yourself, and then you'll learn how to grow a business with a proper structure and make less mistakes.
So, Amisha, in terms of the opportunities, again, for the women who may want to listen to you and people like you, how are there opportunities to multiply? You may be in a small place, a Jorhat or a Sambalpur in Orissa or something like that. What opportunities they have to multiply and make their presence felt, driven online? You're on mute, Shamisha.
So lovely, great that you named Jorhat because that's where I am from.
Oh, I didn't know that. I promise you, I didn't know that.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's the Women's Day special, Ashu, for you. That we connected on just the word Jorhat. So see, I feel what Jayanti said is bang on in terms of we started. I was an HR professional. I had no clue and idea. Very structured, comfortable job. I have no HR in the back of my hand. But here comes ARR. Here comes ROI. Here comes business sharpness, customer acquisition. And per unit cost, where are they? What do I do about them? So, that's where having a structure, incubation programs, and now state governments are doing a lot. Karnataka state is doing a lot. I know Assam is doing a lot. So all the states, respective states are doing a lot of focused program for women entrepreneurs, bringing them from all grassroots level to every other level. So I think that structures help to upskill you in the sense of business. And one of the things that I feel that that from a women entrepreneurship ecosystem, that we need more women investor on the top, more representation. I think this is a challenge that has been spoken in many ways. That if you need to be funded, if you need to grow and scale up your business to a larger, be your next unicorn and women-led unicorn business, I think we need also representation of VCs in women in VCs, because that also brings in the perspective of the same thing in the organization structure, that one of the ways that they drive is bringing more diversity in leadership. There is more empathy in the system, there is more understanding in the system. Women will have challenges. I will not say that our life and men's life will always be equal. We can't delegate motherhood to anyone in this world. We have to take care of our motherhood. And I embrace that. I am happy with that. That teaches us so many things. We are more resilient and we are more accommodating, adopting for many things that we go through. But at the same time, we also need certain structure, even in the startup world, a little bit, which is the pictures are a little distorted.
Don't worry about that. That'll be sorted. Don't worry about that.
So in the startup world, what we also need a little bit of structure that you are also bringing in the corporate world, which will kind of marry that. If a woman is growing a business, maybe they will not scale at a certain pace always, and you will have to, if you're being a funded company, you may have that little bit of liberty, because we need that, again, that little bit of push, pull, everything to kind of adopt to the new system of entrepreneur world. And once we do, maybe when I have a daughter, my daughter will very easily get into the system, right? But to begin with, we need a little bit comfort, pull and push, and advantage as a women entrepreneurs. I think that has to come a little bit structurally. It is already happening, but yes, the more it comes from the VC level to the down level. It's not about that women running entrepreneurship is only responsible of employing more women. It is across, I think, that we need to look into.
Jamina, in terms of how we should look at as a community, as a society, so that the multiplier effect of men who have traditionally driven or have the reins, so to say, and women, the women power that is rising, how should we approach it so that as a community we can grow faster and grow smarter, I should say?
I think the first thing we have to do is look at people with their capabilities. Time we start looking at it as men and women, it's not about the gender, it's really about the capabilities. And if you really see that, it's where women actually excel. You're able to show your capabilities, you're able to, present yourself. The question is that are we really going to do it by asking women to join the workforce? Of course, that is needed. Of course, that push is needed. That need for diversity quota is there. But can it be applied only when there are equal? And that is what we really need to fix. I consider myself an equalist. It's just that the balance is not equal. It is right now horrendously not in favor of women, and which is where I perhaps need to take a little more feminist stance. But what we really need is for organizations to look at all equally, even in terms of promotion. I think the biggest challenge you have is within organizations, in a corporate structure, where women perhaps are not getting as many raises or as many promotions as their male counterparts. Things like maternity breaks and marriage leave are taken against them. You have challenges of women in the corporate world not being able to take a transferable job because of their spouses. So those kind of challenges, I think if you do, a lot more women are going to come up. And in entrepreneurship, I think again we need to change some of the rules. I mean, I have not seen it myself, and some people tell me it's true, some people say it's not true, that a lot of banks ask a woman entrepreneur for a male guarantor. I don't know if the entrepreneurs here can confirm that, but it's been said quite often. So maybe there is some truth to it. So that is what we really need to fight and break the bias of.
Okay, Sujata, for every Naika or a Falguni Nair, there are Sujata Biswas, there is a Jayanti Bhattacharjee. How will you inspire the women? How will you show them the way? Falguni Nair is too big for, the woman, again, to use the word from Jorhat or Balasore or wherever, to dream about. They may probably be dreaming and wanting to be like you.
I think everybody is very accessible nowadays, and that's the beauty of the system, that it's changing, right? Everybody is accessible. You write to Falguni Nair. I have met Falguni Nair. I've spoken to her. She's super down to earth, and I'm sure all of us here are pressed for time. Entrepreneurs, gender irrespective, we all press for time, right? But then there are ecosystems that we are all talking about, where we do give time and we do talk to people who reach out to us, and honestly, this the more we're becoming digital first, and people are writing emails, reaching out via LinkedIn. I think we need to be more open and understanding of the questions that come in. Like, the questions come from different people. You just have to be available. I think that that keeping that space reserved, for example, asking for help. I know we all say, right, ask for help and there'll be people who are there to help you. But also when you grow, you'll realize that your time actually reduces, and when you sometimes say that, oh, I have asked for help, but then somebody asks for help and you are not available. I think since we have seen it, I think all of us, when I started and I used to ask for help, I didn't even know who to approach, and that I'm talking about 2016, 2014 when I started. But now, since there are communities getting formed, there are cohorts, there are groups, there are business groups where people actively participate and talk. There are time sets given. For example, there are networking sessions where you can say, like, talk to Sujata, you can block the time. There are 10 minutes each, you'll get slots when you can actually talk and ask questions. So I think asking for help is something, and as an entrepreneur, you also need to give it back. When people ask for it, you should just be available.
Okay, last question to maybe Jayanti. Jayanti, you may be icons for some people, some of the women that who may be wanting to be like you. How should they be preparing, maybe in their late teen years or early 20s, How should that dream in the eyes be?
I would think they have to be supremely confident that they can do it, because I think as women we doubt ourselves so much. Like, oh, can I move to another city? Can I live alone? I feel that we are resilient. We have this inner power in us that when the cards are down, it kicks in then. But we have it. So I feel like women need to believe that they can. Right? They can. They've also been through so much, which makes them so resilient. But I feel like anything we do, whether it's fashion, whether it's food, whether it's tech, we really need to be on top of it. We can't go out looking for a card that somebody's going to give you or get in on a women, a slot. But I just feel, yes, we'll still have to prove ourselves, but equip yourself. Say that, okay, fine, you want to be in tech, know what's happening in tech, understand, be on top of it. So that tomorrow, if you want a job that, there's another man applying, you should be able to get it only because of that work that you've invested in yourself. So I would think that I'm still studying, I'm still doing courses. But that's just opening up my world even more. It's opening up my network even more. Of course, it's difficult. I don't have much of a social life now because a lot of these courses happen on a Friday evening, but I'm equipping myself, so I feel that if I could give that piece of advice to anybody, it's just work on yourself so much that you are the best in your industry in terms of know-how, in terms of that.
Very interesting point. To believe that you are the best in the industry. Jarmina, in terms of personal branding, so while there is a Falguni Nair there are a few others. There is a Swati Bhargav or others. I can't possibly name everyone, but the importance of women in their personal branding. Would you like to talk about it?
I think this is a very important point, Ashu, and thank you for raising it, because men tend to talk about the simplest thing they do and make it look like they have climbed a mountain, but women think they have to really climb a mountain to say I have climbed a hill. So personal branding is something very important, and today with social media channels, be it LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, creating podcasts, there are so many opportunities for women to showcase themselves. And the one advice I give a lot of entrepreneurs is also to show your personal side. A lot of us believe on LinkedIn we should only be talking professionally, or Twitter we should be only talking professionally. I urge everybody to share themselves as professionals as well as individuals, because we have our interests, we have our passions, which is why we do some of the things we do in our entrepreneurial journey. And that personal branding is very important. I'm sure the women entrepreneurs, they will agree. We see us checking how many followers you have, what is your digital positioning, what is your digital rank in a lot of social media channels, the kind of engagement you're getting. And rightfully so, because if you are not going to talk about yourself, who's going to do that for you? So personal branding, I think, is very critical and unfortunately not that well used. And it's so simple to do. You just need to spend 15 minutes of your day to do that.
Okay, Deepika's had got disconnected. Seems so. Maybe final word, Deepika. Personal branding, something. Okay, if you can hear me, fine, Deepika. Personal branding.
I can. Yeah.
So the importance for a woman entrepreneur. I won't call it. Yeah, please.
No. I think you were going to ask me about personal branding. I'm assuming. I think it's the most. I get a lot of women asking me, but why should I talk about myself? My work should speak about me, right? That's not true at all. I think, when you start a business, people need to know you. People need to know the work that you're doing. And you don't need to worry about, being judged or being, spoken about. I think it's very, very important. I have seen Sujata and Tanya build such an amazing personal brand. I had featured them on She Means Business many, many years ago. They have done a fabulous job, and today they stand out. Their business stands out because of the many things they did to talk about their business, to be the face of their business, to be very visible with what they are doing. So I think it's very, very important to talk. There are tools to help you. It's not like you have to, it's not your 15 minutes of fame. It's not that at all. You need to figure out what you need to talk about. But it's very, very important to go out in the world and say, I do this. This is my work. And, because you want people to buy your work as well, right? So it's very important to be the face behind, the business, and talk about the business and talk about your product, and actually, build a personal brand. Very, very important.
Okay, just about time to wrap up. Thank you so much for being with us on this very important day. Hopefully, we see such days every day, and we see more women business leaders, and all of us, when I say all of us, the women as well as the men, get to learn from people like you. Thank you indeed for joining us and talking.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And a happy Women's Day to everyone.
Thank you, and same to you.
Thank you.
Hello, friends. I'm so happy to welcome all of you to the initiative that Times of India has taken on the 8th of March, which is called The Future is She. I actually wanted to call it She is the Future, but then I thought, let's not take it so tongue in cheek. So we have a lot of exciting activities lined up for today. I'm sure all of you have already gone through our newspaper in the morning and seen the lovely articles that have been written by really successful and prominent women of today all around the world. And you must have got enthused to get into the sessions that we have planned, right from the session on yoga in the morning, and throughout the day we have very exciting sessions planned. There are several pledges that we would like you to take, because actually a woman is the only one who can stand up for herself. Why should we depend on anyone else? That's why in the International Women's Day theme for this year is Break the Bias. Because while the world could be biased against, the female gender, I would say the biases actually start and end really in our minds. So let's first break the bias in our minds that we can do anything we want. I welcome you to a day of healthy interaction, a lot of fun, and please have a lovely day. Thank you so much.